Did you know that refrigerating the wrong vegetable could quietly raise your cancer risk by up to 39%? That's right. According to research cited by the FDA, when starchy vegetables like potatoes are stored in the fridge, their starch turns into sugar, and when cooked, forms acrylamide, a chemical linked to nerve damage and cancer in animal studies. And it doesn't stop there. Garlic. When stored cold, it sprouts and loses its powerful heart-protective compound allicin. Carrots. If you store them wrong, they can lose 30% of their beta-carotene, robbing your eye's immune system and skin of crucial antioxidant support. If you're over 60, these losses aren't just nutritional. They can silently push you toward fatigue infections or worse. And most seniors have no idea their refrigerator is working against their health. So before we dive into the essential list of veggies, you should never refrigerate. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Senior Life. This one small click could help someone avoid a major health mistake. Right now, I'm going to help you uncover 7 everyday foods, ones that almost always show up in your fridge, that may actually be doing more harm than good when stored cold. And I'm pretty sure number 3 is going to surprise you. Right now, let's start with the first vegetable you should never store in the fridge: potatoes. You might think storing potatoes in the fridge is harmless, but science says otherwise. In fact, it could quietly increase your cancer risk by up to 39% and worsen nerve problems in older adults. Back in 2002, scientists in Sweden first discovered that cooking certain foods, especially cold-stored potatoes at high temperatures, could produce acrylamide, a potentially toxic chemical. Since then, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) and National Cancer Institute (NCI) have confirmed that acrylamide forms in starchy foods like fries, chips, and roasted potatoes, especially when these are stored in the refrigerator beforehand. According to the FDA's risk assessment report, acrylamide has been shown to cause cancer in animals, and while human data is still developing, there's enough concern that it's now classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer (IARC) as a probable human carcinogen. In fact, some studies suggest acrylamide exposure may raise the risk of nerve damage, memory problems, and even blood sugar instability, all major issues in adults over 60. Here's a number that really shocked me. In one long-term dietary study by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, people in the top 20% of acrylamide intake had up to 39% higher risk of certain types of cancer compared to those in the bottom 20%. Now let's make this real. I once treated a patient named Linda, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Arizona. She loved roasted potatoes, had them every weekend. But she always kept her potatoes in the fridge, thinking it kept them fresh. Over time, she developed subtle neuropathy, pins and needles in her feet, and prediabetes. Blood work showed nothing alarming but diet history that told a different story. We cut the cold-stored potatoes, switched her to boiling and steaming, and within a month her fasting blood sugar dropped by 12 mmol, and those tingling sensations started fading. No meds, just better food habits. So why are potatoes such a problem when stored cold? Here's the science in plain English. Cold temps convert amylopectin starch into glucose and fructose. When you cook these sugars at high heat above 248 degrees, 120 degrees, they react with asparagine, forming acrylamide. The darker and crispier the potato, the higher the acrylamide. Yes, that golden brown crust you love might not love you back. And it's not just nerves and cancer we're worried about. In older adults, acrylamide exposure has also been linked to slower reaction times, reduced insulin sensitivity, and oxidative stress, which accelerates aging in tissues like your brain and heart. What can seniors and middle-aged adults do? Here are 5 simple tips I give my patients, Store potatoes in a pantry. Cool, dark, and dry. Ideal temp around 50 degrees. 10 degrees, not your fridge. Boil or steam them instead of roasting or frying. Less browning, less acrylamide. Skip the fries. Fast food fries contain some of the highest acrylamide levels. The FDA found acrylamide levels up to 1/200 ug. In some samples, that's 3x the average adult daily intake. Check your potatoes. If they look green or sprouted, toss them. That's a sign of solanine, another compound that can cause nausea, confusion, and dizziness. Add antioxidants to your meals, veggies like broccoli, or herbs like turmeric, which help reduce oxidative damage caused by acrylamide exposure. And a word for the 40 and 50-somethings out there. Don't wait until the symptoms show up. Prevention is always easier and cheaper than treatment. Small shifts in how you store and cook food can dramatically change your long-term health. The second vegetable you should never store in your fridge: garlic. Let me tell you about Raymond, a 72-year-old widower from Illinois. He's been managing high blood pressure for years and swore by garlic for heart health. Every morning he chopped up a clove and added it to his eggs. But over time, his blood pressure began creeping back up. When we talked about his diet, one thing stood out: he was storing his garlic in the fridge, thinking it helped it last longer. Here's what many people don't realize. When garlic is stored in the refrigerator, especially for more than a few days, it starts to sprout. And when it sprouts, it loses allicin, the key natural compound responsible for garlic's powerful anti-inflammatory, blood pressure lowering, and heart-protecting benefits. Allicin is also known for supporting the immune system and fighting oxidative stress. Two things older adults need more than ever. In a study published in the Journal of Nutrition, researchers found that allicin-rich garlic extract reduced systolic blood pressure by up to 10 micrototonards in older adults with uncontrolled hypertension. That's comparable to some prescription medications and without the side effects. Now think about this. If your garlic has lost its allicin because it's been chilling in your fridge too long, you could be missing out on one of the most affordable and accessible heart protectors available. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever noticed your garlic turning green in the center or sprouting a little tail? That's your sign it's past its peak and probably lost its healing punch. Back to Raymond. Once he stopped storing garlic in the fridge and began using fresh cloves kept in a dry cupboard, we rechecked his numbers after 6 weeks. His systolic pressure had dropped 7 points, and he said he felt more clear-headed and energetic in the mornings. Sometimes it's not about what medication you take, it's about what not to do in your kitchen. So here's what I recommend: store garlic in a cool, dry, and dark place, not the fridge. A small ceramic pot with air holes works great. Use fresh garlic within 7 to 10 days of breaking the bulb. Once cloves are separated, they lose potency faster. Crush or chop garlic and let it sit for 10 minutes before cooking. That activates the enzymes that produce allicin. Avoid pre-chopped garlic. In jars, they may last long, but most have little to no allicin left. And if you're middle-aged, now's the time to start thinking ahead. Garlic isn't just for flavor, it's for function. Think of it as nature's pharmacy, but only if you treat it right. Let's move on to the third vegetable one that I know is very familiar to all of us: cucumbers. That cold, soggy cucumber in your fridge. It may be doing more harm than good, especially if you're over 60. Now, cucumbers are often seen as the ultimate healthy snack, light, hydrating, crunchy. But what most people don't realize is how sensitive they are to cold. In fact, according to studies from the University of California Post-Harvest Center, cucumbers stored below 50 degrees turns 10 degrees Celsius for more than 3 days begin to show signs of chilling injury, meaning they bruise, go mushy, and lose key nutrients like vitamin K and certain enzymes. Vitamin K, which cucumbers naturally provide, plays a key role in blood clotting and vascular health. But when exposed to cold, that vitamin begins to degrade. A study published in Food Chemistry found that cold storage significantly reduced vitamin K levels in sliced cucumbers after just 5 days. And in older adults where circulation and clotting are already more fragile, that small change can lead to real consequences like easy bruising, slow wound healing, and poor circulation. Let's pause. Have you ever pulled a cucumber out of the fridge only to find it soft, watery, or with sunken spots? That's not just cosmetic. That's nutrient loss. So here's my advice, whether you're a senior or in your 50s, preparing for better aging store cucumbers at room temperature if you plan to eat them within 2 to 3 days. Keep them whole, unwashed, and in a breathable bag, not plastic. Excess moisture accelerates spoilage. Don't pre-slice. The minute you cut into a cucumber, you start the clock on nutrient loss. If your home runs hot, a wine fridge set around 55 degrees Celsius is a better option than a regular fridge. Add healthy fats like olive oil or avocado when eating cucumbers. This helps absorb the vitamin K they do have. And this isn't just about cucumbers. It's about protecting small, overlooked nutrients that matter more as we age. The fourth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: sweet potatoes. This surprises a lot of people. Sweet potatoes seem like the perfect food, full of fiber, antioxidants, and naturally sweet. But when stored cold, they go through a change that isn't so sweet for your health, especially if you're over 60. Here's what happens. When you put sweet potatoes in the refrigerator, their complex starches begin to break down into simple sugars like glucose and fructose. That might not sound terrible until you realize this can raise the glycemic index (GI) of the potato significantly. That means it hits your bloodstream faster, causing spikes in blood sugar and insulin, exactly what we don't want in older adults dealing with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or chronic inflammation. There's actual data behind this. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that high GI foods were linked to a 21% increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes in older adults. Another report from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health emphasized that consistent blood sugar spikes, even from so-called healthy foods, can lead to long-term damage to blood vessels, kidneys, and the brain. Let me give you a real-life example. One of my longtime patients, Barbara, 66, from Kentucky, was trying to eat cleaner after being diagnosed with borderline diabetes. She swapped her white potatoes for sweet potatoes and thought she was doing everything right. But her morning blood sugar readings kept creeping up. Turns out she was baking sweet potatoes that had been sitting in the back of her fridge for over a week. They were soft, extra sweet, and loaded with fast-acting sugars from the cold storage. Once we changed that, buying fresh sweet potatoes, storing them in a dark pantry, and cooking them gently, her glucose levels stabilized within 2 months. Her energy came back, and so did her confidence in food again. Let's break down the solution. Never store sweet potatoes in the fridge. Keep them in a cool, dark spot like a kitchen cabinet or basket, ideally around 55 degrees, 13 degrees Celsius. Don't wait too long to use them. After 2-3 weeks, they start to sprout or turn mushy, which means more sugar, less fiber. Steam or roast them at lower temps, rather than frying or overbaking, which can caramelize the sugars even more. Pair them with a protein or fat, like grilled chicken or avocado, to slow down sugar absorption. Now, if you're in your 40s or 50s, this is your window to make small changes that protect your blood vessels and brain later on. These tiny shifts in food prep add up over time. Let me ask you something. Do you ever store sweet potatoes in the fridge without realizing the impact? Have you seen blood sugar readings go up even when you're trying to eat better? The fifth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: onions. According to the USDA and University of California's Agricultural Extension, refrigerating whole onions actually traps moisture around them. That excess humidity causes them to soften, sprout early, and worst of all, grow mold. And that mold doesn't always show up as visible fuzz. Sometimes it's deep inside the onion layers, invisible to the eye, but enough to trigger gut irritation gas and upset stomach, especially in seniors with reduced digestive enzyme activity. In fact, a study published in Mycopathologia found that certain molds commonly found on onions, like Aspergillus niger, can produce mycotoxins that irritate the gut and weaken the immune system. In younger people, this might pass unnoticed, but in someone over 60, it can mean days of discomfort, bloating, and vulnerability to infections. Let's pause for a second. Ever peeled an onion from your fridge and noticed it felt soft, slippery, or smelled off? That's your warning sign, and it's more common than you think. So what's the best way to handle onions, especially if you're over 60 or supporting an aging loved one? Here's what I recommend. Store whole onions at room temperature in a well-ventilated basket away from direct sunlight. Keep them dry. Moisture is the enemy. Don't wash them before storage. Never store onions next to potatoes. Potatoes release moisture and gas that make onions spoil faster. Once cut, store onions in an airtight glass container in the fridge and use them within 2 to 3 days. Watch for signs of spoilage, soft spots, green sprouts, off smells. Toss them out when in doubt. And for folks in their 40s and 50s, this is the kind of habit that seems small but has big long-term benefits. Preserving gut health isn't just about probiotics and supplements. Sometimes it's as simple as where you store your onions. The sixth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: pumpkin. Did you know that refrigerating pumpkin can cut its vitamin A content by over 30%, quietly putting your vision at risk, especially after age 60? This might sound like a small detail, but the way we store our food matters a lot more than most people think. Especially for seniors, where small nutrient losses can turn into real health concerns over time. Let's take a closer look at pumpkin and winter squash foods we often praise for being rich in beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A. But when you store them in the wrong environment, like a cold, damp refrigerator, they don't just lose texture. They lose their power. According to research from the University of California's Post-Harvest Center, storing pumpkins and winter squash below 50°C tender can lead to chilling injury, which softens the flesh, causes surface pitting, leads to water loss and cellular breakdown, and significantly reduces beta-carotene content. In one study published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis, researchers found that cold storage for 7 to 10 days reduced the beta-carotene concentration in squash by up to 32%. That's a massive loss, especially for seniors who rely on this vitamin to maintain healthy vision, immune function, and skin integrity. Let's connect this with real-world aging. As we age, our ability to convert beta-carotene into usable retinol, active vitamin A, declines. That's why older adults are at higher risk for dry eyes, reduced night vision, macular degeneration, slower healing, and weakened skin barrier. A landmark study from the National Eye Institute, part of the Age-Related Eye Disease Study AREDS, showed that older adults with low vitamin A levels had significantly higher rates of vision loss and retinal thinning. Notably, people with higher dietary intakes of carotenoids like beta-carotene had a 25% lower risk of age-related macular degeneration. That's no small statistic. That's the difference between independent living and losing your ability to drive at night. Practical solutions for better health. Here's how to keep your pumpkin and your eyesight strong. Store whole pumpkin and squash at 50 to 60 graden vorjinst, 10 to 15 degrees. This could be a cool pantry cellar or dry storage drawer. Avoid storing near ethylene-producing fruits like apples and bananas. This gas accelerates spoilage. Once cut, cook or refrigerate within 2 to 3 days in an airtight container. Don't leave it sitting exposed. Add healthy fats like olive oil, coconut oil, or grass-fed butter to pumpkin dishes. Vitamin A is fat-soluble, and you need fat for absorption. Choose deep orange varieties. The deeper the color, the more carotenoids per gram. And one more note. Don't confuse soft, watery pumpkin flesh with ripeness. That's often the first sign of nutrient breakdown, not a signal to eat it fast. The seventh vegetable you should never store in the fridge: avocados. This is a mistake I see way too often, especially in older adults trying to eat healthier. Let me explain why this matters. Avocados are rich in digestive enzymes, particularly lipase, which helps your body break down fats more efficiently. They're also packed with healthy monounsaturated fats, fiber, potassium, and antioxidants. But here's the catch: if you refrigerate them before they've ripened, the natural ripening process halts. The result? The flesh stays firm, flavor is bland, and those digestive enzymes never fully develop. Now let's talk about how that affects seniors. As we age, the stomach naturally produces less hydrochloric acid and fewer digestive enzymes. That's why older adults are more prone to bloating, slow digestion, and constipation. When you eat an avocado that hasn't properly ripened, meaning it's still tough, rubbery, and underdeveloped, your gut has to work extra hard to digest it. That can lead to gas, discomfort, or that rock in your stomach feeling. There's even research to back this up. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition and Food Sciences noted that enzyme activity in avocados increases dramatically during ripening at room temperature, but drops significantly if refrigerated too early. Another report by the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources confirms that once an avocado is placed in the fridge, before ripening it may never ripen properly, resulting in texture issues and nutrient loss. Let me give you a real example. Mr. Tomlinson, 73, from Arizona, came to me with chronic bloating and a sense of heaviness after meals. He had been eating half an avocado every morning with toast. Seems harmless, right? But when I asked about his shopping and storage habits, he said I buy 'em hard, and green, put them straight in the fridge so they last longer. Boom. There's the issue. He was eating avocados that never fully ripened, hard to chew, tough to digest, and lacking the enzyme activity that makes avocados so gut-friendly in the first place. Once we changed that letting them ripen on the counter and only refrigerating once they were soft, his digestion improved in less than 2 weeks. No pills, just smarter handling. So how should you do it? Buy avocados slightly firm, but not rock hard. Let them ripen at room temperature, ideally on the counter near bananas, which release ethylene and speed ripening. Once ripe, they should give slightly. When pressed, you can refrigerate them for 2 to 3 days to slow spoilage. Never store unripe avocados in the fridge. This halts the softening process and locks in that raw texture. If you're unsure, cut one open. A perfectly ripened avocado will have a creamy texture and mild, nutty aroma. Underripe ones will be pale, stiff, and hard to scoop. And if you're in your 50s or 60s and starting to feel digestion slow down, small adjustments like this can make a big difference. Now here's the big picture. Your fridge isn't always your friend. For older adults, one small mistake in how you store your veggies could mean nutrient loss, gut issues, or even vision trouble down the line. But the good news, you can take back control. Right from your kitchen. Start checking how you store these 7 common foods. Let your avocado ripen, keep your potatoes out of the cold, and let your garlic stay bold. Small shifts lead to real results in your digestion circulation and long-term energy. If you found value in this, why not share it with a friend or loved one who's also looking to age stronger, smarter, and healthier? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along with us here at Senior Life, where every food choice becomes a step toward better aging.